Hey guys, it's Cologne here with Mark again. Today we will be going over offense in Mordhau, everything that has to do with offense. How you doing today, bud?
Yay. I'm good. How are you, Cologne?
Not tired today,
No, not tired at all.
huh? All right, so why don't you just get us going with the topic?
Sure. Yeah, so the whole video is going to be centered around offense, but we just wanted to preface it with even though we're talking about offense here, you should always be in a defensive mind state in the sense that you're watching what your opponent's doing and you're watching if if they're going for any gambles, which if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about that in this video too. Or you're watching if they're footworking away from you. You're basically kind of in a defensive mind state at all times for the most part because you want to know what your opponent's doing. You want to make sure that they're not doing any like cheeky moves on you.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's just saying you
So
have to
yeah,
watch out for what your opponent's doing because some players in this game just are completely
turn the brain.
unpredictable and small
Yeah.
brain, and you can punish it. So while you're on offense, you have to look out for, your opponent just disrespecting what you're doing, and you have to be able to punish him for it.
Yeah. Cool. So the first high level topic we're going to talk about is initiative. And we just want to make sure that you guys have a decent understanding of what initiative is before we get into the rest of the topics. And we're going to actually make a separate video on initiative itself because it's such a complex topic. But do you want to just maybe explain what initiative is in a brief sense?
Yeah, so initiative is offense. Essentially, initiative means offense because if you have the initiative of a fight, it means you are the one who has the offensive attack. Like
Yeah.
if I just attack Mark and he parries, now Mark has the initiative for a brief time
Right.
while I'm in recovery. Like if you
Yeah.
just get parried, you can't wind up again. Perfect example. I tried to wind up as fast as possible right after Mark parried me, and I couldn't, and he reposted me and hit me. So
Yeah.
Mort has a very turn-based game, essentially. If I attack Mark and he successfully defends, he attacks me, I have to successfully defend, and then it's my turn again, then it's my initiative again, I'm on offense. So the more initiative you have, the more offensive chances you have. The more offensive chances you have, the better chance you have to win the fight.
Right. Initiative isn't always clear. Like there's examples of where initiative is clear, like when someone's riposting. So go ahead and give me a riposte. So initiative is clear right now because I have a riposte, which is like the safest way to use your initiative. That it was clear in that sense, and I can hit Cologne before he hits me. But in this game, initiative is not always clear, and you have to remember that. And that goes back to why you have to always be in a defensive mind state.
Yeah, so like if Mark doesn't repost and he tries to morph me right after, watch what
Mm-hmm.
will happen to him. If I'm a brainless guy, I can just hit him, and if I see he doesn't repost and I wind up, regardless of what Mark does, I can just
Yeah.
gamble and hit him first.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, you guys have a decent understanding of what initiative is. Like I said, we'll go over it in another video. But I think we want to, before we get into the rest of the high-level topics too, we just want to briefly go over the different mechanics in the game and how they play into each other. So the first one we have listed is feints.
Right.
What is a feint?
Um, Feint is just you're canceling your attack and wind up, and
Hmm.
what it essentially does is it makes your opponent think you're gonna attack them. So Mark will parry at my feint, and then I'll be able to hit him after if I wind up again. So I feint to bait out his parry, and then I follow up and hit him. That's a feint. It doesn't matter what you do. You're just trying to get your opponent to think you're about to attack them, and then you follow up. So that's a
Yep.
feint.
And next we have a morph.
Yeah, morph is it's like kind of like a mini feint in a sense. Is you're winding up and then you're changing your attack to a different attack. So if I wind up a stab and I change it to a side strike, I could wind up a stab, change it to an underhand. I could wind up an underhand and change it to a stab. It's
Yeah.
you're basically morphing your first attack into your second attack.
Yeah, and
And
it's good to note that's good. Sorry,
no,
I thought you were done.
I was done. What were you saying?
Oh, okay, it's good to note that stabs can only be morphed into swings, and swings can only be morphed into stabs.
Right.
Um, yeah, and a morph is basically just you can think of it as like a feint, and the follow-up attack to the feint in one, but it just costs a little less stam than the feint. So that's good to remember there.
Yeah. All right. So that's a morph.
Yep, chambers.
Chambers means you're using an input rather than parry. So if Mark winds up an attack at me and I input the same attack that he does at the last second, I will chamber his attack rather than having
Yeah.
to parry his attack.
Yep. Yeah, and chambers are good. Well, chambers. Well, I guess we'll talk about how they combine after we talk about the next thing. So the next thing is actually swing manipulation. As it's not really like a base mechanic, but it's part of swinging and stabbing and stuff. And we have a whole nother video on that, and Cologne will put the link in the description for that.
Yeah, it's swing manip is a huge part of the game. It's a 40-minute video.
Yeah.
So you should probably watch it if you want a higher level understanding of swing manip. But what an excel is I'm pulling my weapon into Mark faster than what normally would be, and a drag would be slower than when it normally would hit him.
Those are different types of swing manip.
Excel and a drag. That's the difference of swing manip. Okay.
So a lot of new players, they'll have a tough time dealing with someone who's just feinting them and stuff. And this is where we're going to talk about how the mechanics mix together here. So a lot of new players will have trouble with someone just like constantly feinting them and they're parrying. So the mechanic that counters feints is a chamber. So if I feint Cologne and he chambers, I've stopped my attack. I don't have initiative at that point because and I'm going into initiative here, but he's taken the initiative of the fight and he has an attack coming at me. So remember, chambers counter feints.
Yep.
So now the counter to a chamber is actually a morph. So go ahead and try and chamber my stab, Cologne.
Okay.
If I morph that, I actually hit Cologne before his chamber lands on me because he chambered the first part of my morph, which was the stab, and the second part of my morph will hit him before his chamber attacks me successfully.
Yep. So that's why morphs counter chambers rather than feints, because I want you now, Mark. Why don't you feint your stab and then try to wind up instead? See how I beat him there?
He hits me first.
Now do a morph. That's the difference. So morphs basically counter chambers because you can punish someone for chambering.
Yep. I mean that's essentially it. Those are the main mechanics of the game, and it just goes to show how simple of a game Mordhau is. But it gets complex when you mix all these. The mechanics can be mixed together. Like a morph, you can actually do a morph feint as well. Yep. And it gets into like more higher level mind games and stuff like that, which we'll talk about a little bit here.
All right, yeah, so now we're going to go the bigger picture of mechanics, and we're going to try to get a little more in-depth into your offense and how to build up, your offense in general. So, when you're fighting an opponent, you're going to notice that they have certain habits, or they have certain things that they do. Like sometimes, I'll give you an example. Me, personally, as a player, I have a general rule that I chamber chambers and I parry reposts. So if Mark realizes that I'm always chambering Mark, like Mark's going to start to morph me, and he's going to start to
I'll morph out of the chamber.
Exactly.
So let's show that. So I'll swing at you once. You chamber.
Yep.
I'll rechamber and morph.
Got it.
So I know Cologne's going to chamber again, so I morph at him. And let's say I've done that a couple times, and he's parried it both times. Well, now I'm conditioning him to see the morph, and he's parrying. So I'll swing first, just rechamber.
Okay.
So now I morph feint, and I see Cologne parry, and now I can punish.
Right.
If I'm not a retard.
Well, that's an example of how you would use morph feinting to your advantage in a fight. Like,
yeah, and it's an example of conditioning too, because I know Cologne has been parrying every time I chamber morphed at him.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna eat his morph attack, so I'm forced to chamber, or I'm forced to parry. Yep, and that will give Mark the opportunity to feint me.
Yeah, another example of conditioning is and this is just a random example. I'm not saying do this. I'm just saying like this. You can get very creative with your playstyle. Say I keep doing these like underhands to Cologne, and I see him parrying every single one of them. So you just keep parrying, right? And I'm doing this underhand with this animation. I'm literally like Pavlov's dogging him. Like his mouth is salivating every time I ring the bell, right? And I see him parrying every time. So now what I can do is morph, or now what I can do, go ahead, is feint, and I can punish him.
Sorry.
You're not supposed to double parry.
My bad.
But you guys get the idea. It's like I'm literally conditioning Cologne to believe something's gonna happen, and then I do something else. I mix it up.
Great example.
And condition. Yeah.
It's like if I'm running at Mark and I'm stabbing him a lot. For some reason I'm stabbing at Mark and then I
And I'm
morph
parrying
my
every
stab.
stab.
It's like
Yeah, or even if I'm chambering in that case, yeah.
yeah. So it's the last example I'll give is if I'm in a repost battle with Mark. Mark, I'm
Hmm.
gonna excel you 3 times and then I'll
Okay,
drag. If I
sure.
if we're in a repost battle right now, repost me back.
Oh,
If I'm excelling Mark really quickly with every attack, and then I throw out a drag at the end, it's gonna hit him because he's so. It's not going to hit him 100%. I'm just saying your
I mean,
conditioning.
it didn't hit me because we're on Kansas ping right now,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's my 60 ping. But I'm pressuring Mark to think my attacks are coming at him quickly, and then I don't know what that was, but
oh, sorry, it's my coffee.
I'm pressuring Mark to think I'm hitting him quickly, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden I pull out a drag. It completely changes the pace of the fight. So
Yeah.
conditioning is making, you said it best, the way you explained it is it's making your opponent believe something's going to happen and then changing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a really good thing to note what the most popular conditioning I mean, conditioning and mix-ups are essentially the same thing. A mix-up is just when you change it up from what you're conditioning your opponent to see,
Yeah.
or what they've seen previously. But the a really popular one is just morph mix-ups, and morph conditioning. Like Ren, one of the best players in the game, if not the best. Like his whole
Playstyle.
play style revolves around his threatening stab and his morphs off of his stab and then the morph
Yep.
feints, and so he literally mixes up just off the stab because his stabs are so.
So good.
Yeah, you could probably talk about that more than I can.
Well,
You
that's
played with Ren a lot.
yeah, so Ren used to be my teammate, and it's really amazing how just this basic mechanic of a morph with a stab and a morph into a left mouse button can be utilized to such a high level. Like this is probably the arguably the best player in the game, and he will be able to beat you with just the stab morph to LMB. And he'll
Yep.
sometimes just end up stabbing you in the face because you're gonna be like, okay, he's gonna morph me. Don't fall for the morph. Like if I'm fighting Mark right now, and I
Mhm.
notice Mark is morph feinting me a lot, I'll start trying to read the stab morph, and I'll start chambering the
Yeah,
second
and then
attack.
I could just stab him at that
It'll
point.
end up yeah,
If he's
it's
not
hard for me to
respecting
read.
my stab, if he's
Hmm.
not respecting my stab, and that's where Ren's game style or play style comes from. Is just the threat of his stab. He has this like really nasty shaky stab he does too, and it's like instantly hits. So
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
yeah, so I mean, we probably don't have to go too much more into detail about conditioning. I think you guys get the idea, and like we recommend you guys just like get creative. Also, watch better players and see what they do, and try and mimic that too, and you'll learn things off of them, and you'll develop your own things you can do off of them. But just like get creative. Like the mechanics can be used in a really like cool and fun way, and just make your own things that you do that condition your opponent.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Okay, we can move on.
Punishing. Yeah, so generally when you see a parry, it's time to punish, right? When your opponent's parry, you want to make sure you utilize the fact that they can't defend themselves after the parry, and you punish them.
Yeah.
Um, so this should be a pretty basic thing to understand, but then what you also have to try and get practiced at is preventing your opponent from double parrying. And let's show them a double parry real quick.
Okay.
So make me panic parry.
Wait.
Make me parry, and then I'll double parry after. Yeah. So that's a double parry. That means he had the punish on me, but I managed to double parry. I parried again. I didn't get it that time. But you want to make sure that your opponent never double parries, and this comes with experience. Like you're gonna know the timings better. But this means with slower weapons, if you feint your opponent, you should always have an attack ready to go that can punish that feint. It doesn't have to be right after you feint, but generally it should be like pretty close after. Like look how quick I was to respond to Clone's parry there, and he still managed to double parry. And I have a pretty slow weapon. I have the Falx right now, which is pretty slow. But with this weapon, if you're feinting and you're morphing, you should always have an attack ready to punish them. Like you should never just feint and see. So go ahead and parry. You should never do that. That
Yep.
should never happen. That's
You're.
very bad.
It's
You just wasted stamina and
exactly. It's very
you did nothing.
counterproductive. You see
Yep.
that actually a lot with like the mid tier to lower level players is they're unable to play at such a high rate of input, which this kind of is going to go back into initiative. But when you're feinting someone, regardless, so like a lot of times you're fighting someone and you feint someone and they fall for your feint and you don't do anything because
Yeah.
you almost throw the feint out to see how they're going to react, but you forget that you need to punish them. So if I feint Mark, I need to immediately wind up or else he's going to be able to get off a double parry.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh,
I got it. I got it. Do not panic.
I don't want it to throw off, but
It's fine. It's not that big.
go 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 go
Yeah.
go.
So another thing we'll talk about is say you think your opponent might have room for a double parry. Oh, let me speed it up.
It's too late.
No, it's just
Too
saved like
late.
a second. I saved a second and a half.
Too late.
All right, so come here, clone. I'm gonna make you panic parry, and then I'm gonna try and punish you after that. Okay.
Yep.
So at that point, I saw Cologne parry, and I don't feel like my windup is early enough that I can punish him in time for him to get a double parry. So I think he can get a double parry. So here's something I can do. Let's start over. I feint again, and this time because I'm baiting out the double parry, because he's actually under a lot of pressure to get that parry off quick. So I feint again, and this time I secure it. I make sure that my attack, I immediately have an attack to punish after. So one more time. There you go. You could show from your perspective. Let me toggle damage.
See what Mark's doing is he's baiting out the parry. He thinks he's parrying too late, so he winds up another feint to further. To understand this at the most mechanical standpoint is there's something called recovery, which after you parry, you can't pull up your parry for a certain amount of time. So if I parry and I spam right click, that's how fast I can parry twice. So if Mark baits out my parry, he needs to hit me in between the time I first parry and the time I second parry. So it's honestly a small window that you have to
It's a
be
pretty
able to,
small window.
yeah, it's a pretty small window you have to be able to punish somebody.
Yeah, that's how fast you can parry. It's not that long. Like try and hit me in that window. It's actually not that easy.
I can't even time
So
it.
yeah, it's literally actually kind of hard. Like
Yeah, so you just have to
so
be.
you have to be ready with an attack to punish, and that comes
Exactly.
with experience. It's kind of hard to learn that at first, but you will get that over time. But just if you understand the mechanic, you'll learn it much faster, and you'll probably have better fundamentals when you become an experienced player.
Yep. So that
Cool.
is punishing. Oh, let's punish
Punishing,
gambles too. Let's go over punishing gambles.
Yeah,
If,
because gamble is the next topic.
oh yeah, this is what drives some people insane. Is it say Mark is a super skilled player, which he is, and say I'm a complete dog shit player, which I am.
Which he is.
and Mark's running at me with morphs and feints and here I am just winding up.
Just swing.
I input and I hit him.
Yep.
What I'm doing I'm essentially gambling because I'm not respecting anything Mark's doing. So when we first in our introduction to this video, Mark stated that you need to actively be reading what your opponent's doing. If
Yep.
Mark is morphing me and he sees that I haven't been respecting him this whole fight, he needs to stop feigning and stop doing all the extra stuff and just punish me for being a bad player. Like that's as simple.
So go ahead and do that again.
Oh,
If I know that he just doesn't care what I'm doing with my initiative, and he's just like fuck you, I'm swinging.
yeah,
Then I should understand that, and I should just punish him.
correct.
And Clone's a known gambler, so he's pretty good at this. All right. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it ties into what we first said. Is just always watch your opponent. So let's do the same example. Just swing at me randomly. So I'm morphing. I'm watching my opponent, so I parried there. Even though I was morphing and doing this and that, I saw what my opponent was doing and I parried. I stopped what I was doing. I parried. Like I'm like, this guy's an idiot. He just swung at me while I had initiative. I still have to parry this. Like I don't have an option at this point. So I parried.
Like I'll be offense and you gamble me now, right? So I'm winding up at Mark. I see that he's just disrespecting what I'm doing, so I have to parry him. If Mark doesn't have initiative and I'm running at him fainting, and he just does that, you have to parry him and realize, oh, he's just gonna gamble me. Like, just hit him. Just hit him. Hit him with a basic morph. You know, that will condition.
And also
the thing is, you can condition gamblers too, because if you see someone's being an idiot and you're just starting to hit them, they're trying to gamble you and you end up just hitting them a few times, they're gonna be like, oh shit, I need to parry, and then
now they'll try to parry. Yeah.
then they'll open up for a morph or a feint or anything like that.
Yep. Also, just to really quick go back to what you said, you don't always have to parry out your attack. In the cases you don't need to parry out when they gamble you is when you think your attack is going to beat them.
Yeah.
And that comes with experience too. But
100%.
just that's good to know.
The initiative video is going to be so important for you guys to watch. So
yeah, initiative is going to be really high level.
this is the
cool.
fundamentals of offense. Initiative is how you take your offense to the next level, and what makes honestly initiative is the difference between the best players and just good players, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll probably have a separate one on mind games too. Huh?
Yep. Okay, so is that? I think that's the whole video. Is that through everything?
Yeah, I think that was everything.
Now let's just do like one or
That we
two
have listed
duels
at least.
and show
Talk.
offense.
Sure.
Right? Or what were you gonna say?
Yeah, let me get a better weapon because I can't do fucking mix-ups or anything with this.
Yeah,
No, I
trash
think we covered
weapons.
everything.
This weapon's so ugly.
I like it. I mean, it's a fun weapon. I don't know if it's good yet. I don't think it's good at all, actually.
I haven't seen
Alright.
people use it. Okay.
So I'm actually gonna showcase mix-ups, so it might be a little cancer.
Let's just morph at each other and a bunch of shit. The thing is, we both have stupid footwork on defense, so it's like half the things that should hit do hit. Yeah, let me get some stand back, bro.
So notice how I'm kind of mixing up this stab to underhand, and I'm doing the same thing. And I'm not really conditioning very well. Like I'm kind of just RNGing it, and he's reading it pretty well. I could be conditioning better, but I just kind of wanted to showcase like a mix-up doesn't necessarily have to be conditioning. You could just keep doing different combinations of the same sequences. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So just duel how you normally do, and
Yeah, I'll normally duel.
Just for like a understanding of how sometimes high-level duels. The thing is, I'm a shit dueler, and me and Mark don't claim. Yeah, me and Mark don't claim to be high-level duelers, but we have an understanding of the game. So this is how you would apply all those mechanics into a, a high-level scenario. Underhand drag.
Chamber underhand drag.
Alright, we'll just do one more and then that'll be the video. Hopefully that wasn't 90 minutes long.
I think this one was pretty short.
Oh, that was cool. That, my friends,
I don't know what you're thinking.
That, my friends, is a gamble.
Was not a gamble.
That, my friends, is a gamble.
Stabs are readable this patch.
Alright, we're gonna end it there. Thanks for watching,
Good way
guys.
to end it.
Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, sub. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Well, actually, next is gonna be initiative, but after that, let me know. I had the idea of we're gonna go over all the fundamentals for 1v1, and then we're gonna make a 2.0 series for team play.
Team play, yeah.
Let me know if you guys want to see that or not. But thanks for watching. Take care.